We've talked on the YouTube channel about Ratchet and Clank in the past, guys, the past, the present, and what the future could look like. And now, guys, we have gotten our official confirmation of the continuation of this franchise with Rift Apart, which is the newest Ratchet and Clank game that's going to be coming out. And I gotta say, guys, from what it looks like to me with, a Rift Apart or a Rift Apart as a game and a concept, I love where they're maybe going with this franchise. So I wanted to talk in this next segment of the show about everything that we know so far about Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So let's get into it. So in an article that was written by Hayes Madsen, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart finally brings back the beloved duo after a 4-year hiatus, and the new game looks to push the series further than ever. Sony's PS5 reveal event had a lot of surprises for PlayStation fans, especially fans of Insomniac games. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart was one of the first exclusives shown off for the PS5, and it finally brings the duo back in a new adventure for the first time in 7 years, 2016 remake notwithstanding. Now, what I'll say, guys, is for those of you who are Xbox users, unfortunately, this is a PlayStation exclusive that you won't be able to play. Now, maybe it'll go to other consoles or to PC or something, but at least as of right now, it is a PlayStation exclusive and has been for, I believe, the entire series up to this point. Rift Apart really shows how far Ratchet and Clank has come over the years, but the game looks to retain everything that fans know and love while introducing wild new elements. Now, as far as the release date is concerned, guys, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is a PS5 exclusive, but as of now, it doesn't have a release date or even a window. Fans shouldn't expect Rift Apart to be available at the PS5 launch in holiday of 2020, as Insomniac also has another game on the way, Spider-Man Miles Morales, also announced during the PS5 event, launches holiday 2020, and the studio's efforts will most likely be on that for the near future. Because of that, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart probably won't see a release until a few months into 2021 at the earliest. And I agree with this, guys, because of when Miles Morales or the new Spider-Man game is going to be coming out. I think that Rift Apart could probably say at some point in 2021 it'll probably release, but yeah, they're going to want to separate these exclusives throughout the course of the year. They're not going to want, the new Spider-Man to come out and then like a month later comes Ratchet and Clank. They're going to spread these games out without a doubt. So I would say, guys, if you were to ask me, I would probably say later in 2021 is when we'll probably see the release of Ratchet and Clank. But obviously, guys, Rift Apart, you have to also remember that with the pandemic going on in our world, there's a possibility that this will actually get pushed back even further in 2021, maybe even to 2022. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but you always have to remember that with any release date that's given to you at this point, in this current time in history, guys, you got to take it with a pinch of salt because things can change. These games can be pushed back because of marketing reasons or because of the pandemic, whatever it might be, guys. You always have to remember that. Hopefully, Rift Apart will be able to, sit somewhere in mid to late 2021. The reveal trailer for Rift Apart doesn't detail a lot of story, but it does give a few hints as to what's happening next. The game clearly takes place the furthest in the timeline seen yet, and as Clank states in the trailer, dimensions seem to be collapsing in on one another. In the gameplay clip shown, Clank can be heard talking about how Dr. Nefarious has returned after all these years to try and take over the universe again. That means that Nefarious is likely the main villain of the series once again. Of course, the big reveal is the female Lombax that Clank runs into at the end of the trailer, which means that Ratchet isn't the sole surviving member of his race. So that's going to be really interesting. I'm excited to see this female character come into the fray, into the universe. I think that's going to add some really interesting and exciting elements to this story. In my personal opinion, I think it's going to actually add a lot to the story here. As far as the gameplay is concerned, guys, the core gameplay of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart remains largely the same, with the focus on third-person shooting and platforming. There are a few new elements that are already on display. Rifts are the first major change, as the game seems to have scripted sequences that have the duo jumping through different dimensions in a matter of seconds and having to contend with the surprises along the way. The rifts also directly tie into gameplay, as Ratchet has a new tool called the Rift Tether. This allows him to grab onto rifts in the environment and use them to teleport around areas, flanking enemies, or simply moving instantaneously. The trailer also showed off 4 new weapons for Ratchet: the Burst Pistol, Shatter Bomb, a shotgun-like Enforcer, and Topiary Sprinkler. Apart from that, the environment seems much more populated with NPCs and enemies than anything the series has seen before, which I'm okay with, guys. Look, I feel like Sony is taking some risks here with, the whole idea of the rifts and such, but I think it could add some really interesting, exciting elements to this story, like almost like going through a rift and going into like another environment, a new atmosphere and such, is going to make this game very interesting if that's the direction they decide to go. I also think using the rifts around your enemies to take out enemies and such, and having more NPCs than we've, or enemies than we've ever seen before, that could add some really interesting elements to this. It's, the stakes are higher. They're taking a risk here with this, but I think that it might be one that pays off, guys. Overall, from a story perspective, we don't know much about the story, but I'm okay with that. I want there to be surprises along the way with a Ratchet & Clank game like this. I think that this has, it's got mystery written all over it, just from the standpoint of the rifts and all of that. So I think that I'm okay with them not showing us a lot as of right now about, the Ratchet & Clank story and where this could be going, but I'm excited to play it nonetheless. And what I will say about it is this, guys. When we look at Ratchet & Clank and what it's done up to this point, I mean, Ratchet & Clank, in my opinion, it's a fun game to play. It's a fun, third-person shooter game, and, at times it's kind of felt not necessarily like a copy and paste each game, but there's been elements that have changed, but nothing like this. This is like drastic changes that they're making that are, it's taking risks. But at the end of the day, I actually think, and I really appreciate this. It kind of reminds me of, with Naughty Dog making, taking some risks with The Last of Us 2, knowing that there was going to be some backlash or a lot of backlash to some of the things that they decided to do within the game, whether we're talking about mechanics or we're talking about the story. You look at Ratchet & Clank, they're kind of changing things about it, at least from the outside looking in. We don't know all the details yet, but it looks like there's going to be some differences here, guys. The rifts are going to make you be able to traverse the world in different ways than we've ever been able to do before, as well as from a combat perspective, as well as just, checking out, like, there could be so much more to explore in the universe of Ratchet & Clank by using the rifts. And so that's something that I think we've never seen before, and it could, if it's, done well, I mean, this could be the best game in the series. But with that, guys, it's pretty much everything that we know so far about the game. And to me, at least, I'm very excited to see more. Let's just put it that way. I'm really excited to continue to see more about this story, about what they're planning on doing. I'm hoping there's multiplayer elements to this. I mean, using rifts. I mean, think of like Fortnite. Games have used rifts in the past and such. I mean, it could be really cool concepts from a multiplayer perspective, from co-op perspective, being able to, even have the female character as a playable character in the multiplayer and co-op, whatever it might be, guys. I'm really excited to see where they go with this. And I'll be sure to give you guys more information as more information does come out. And with that, I want to pass a question on to you. What are you guys most excited about Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.